I went to high school, to Fairfax High School. After that, I went to a city college, where I spent a little bit of time. After that, I went to Cal State Northridge. After Cal State Northridge, I was done with education. I went off and started working in real estate. Then I started working in commercial real estate. And then I started a company. My original company that I started was dealing with international trade. I speak two languages, Russian and English, so Russia at that time was going through a lot of changes, so I go, that's a cool thing to do. So I went over there, started a company there, came back here, started a company here, was going back and forth for a while. Then I got married, so my new wife decided she would rather have me here than there. So I started a company over here that was actually a textile company of all things. And when I started the company, it grew, it became successful. And we were using lawyers. And I really was unhappy with the answer I was getting. So I decided the best way to get an answer is actually to figure it out for myself. So I went to law school at night. I went to University of Laverne, which had two distinctions. Number one, it had latest starting night classes, and I could pay for my tuition by credit card, which was a great way to get through law school. And when I finished it, I decided I really wasn't planning to be a lawyer. I liked running my company. And then I sold the company. And the only thing that they asked me to do is ask me to sign a non-compete agreement. Oh, wait a second. I have a law degree. Let me try that. And it just so happened to be that within 2 weeks of me starting to practice law, I went off to trial inside a federal prison. That was kind of cool in and of itself. And after that trial, I was hooked. I wanted to do only litigation. I wanted to do only trial. I started my own firm, and all we've done is actually trials. And part of our business here is based on being focused of taking cases to trial and trying them. And then part of it also is based on my business background, because I kind of understand what a business goes through. So that's what we focus on. We focus on business litigation, and we focus on trying cases. The best part of being in trial is it's a very controlled environment. You meet 12 or 14 or 15 people, depending on where you are, and you've never met them before. And at the same time, you have a client, and our clients usually are, if it's an injury case, they'll be pretty badly injured, or there's a death, or there's a devastating event of some sort, whether in business or in their personal life. And part of what we do is we tell their story. It's not about quoting cases, it's not about arguing precedents, it's about telling a story. And I am the person that speaks on their behalf. It's huge responsibility, but you have these jurors who come from all walks of life, who are taking time out of their lives, willingly or unwillingly, to help you decide a problem. And to me, they're the most precious people in the room, because they're my sole focus. They're the ones that tell a story too. And through me, I tell a story of somebody's life, somebody's suffering, somebody's pain, somebody's anger, somebody's desire for retribution, or just to have their story heard. And that's extremely important, because it's about how do you tell a story? How do you, in a very short time period, communicate everything that you are there for? Why should these people care? And that to me is an amazing. I mean, I think if I could imagine an ideal retirement, for me, I would be in trial. I will spend my entire retirement in trial, because I have these clients that I love. I've never taken a case where I have not loved my client. And if I love my client, I think it shows. It shows our care for them. It shows why we think they're right. And we're very passionate about it. We're not jerks or anything. We don't fight with opposing side. We're there to tell a story. And if we understood our story right, and if I did my job correctly, the jury will hear that story, and they will decide that story in the way that will be right for my client. It's not about winning, it's not about money, it's about getting the juries to understand what happened, and then say, look, is this right? And if we understood it correctly, if we told the story correctly, invariably, it's never failed. I've done a lot of trials. I've never had a jury get it wrong. Even if I lost the case, they were right. I should have lost the case. Jurors are absolutely the most amazing mechanism that exists in the world. They're the truth meter. They will tell you if you're right and you're wrong, and even though sometimes their answer hurts, but they're right. They're right about the answer. And my job is to make sure they have all the information they need in order to make that decision. And it's absolutely the most joyful and fascinating process I can imagine. My most memorable cases is the very first case I tried as a lawyer 2 weeks after starting to practice. It was an immigration case. And the reason I absolutely loved that case was my client, in the middle of the case, she was trying to explain why she has scarring on her feet. So as the judge says, well, why do you have scarring? She actually yanked up her skirt, pulled up her foot, and put it on the judge's desk and said, this is why, this is the scarring that I have. It was one of the funniest and wonderful moments, because after that, the case was over. Because you don't need an explanation what happened. You looked at this poor woman's scar, and that was the argument. I could tell a beautiful story, but that one image was worth anything I could have done. And that was an amazing lesson for me of how to communicate. And it's probably a case that I remember, oh my God, it was more than 20 years ago, but I remember it, I would say, at least once a week. And I know for a fact that that family, we won the immigration case. The husband who was trying to stay in the country, got to stay in the country. They live here. I still get Christmas cards for them every single year. And one of the Christmas cards they send me is a picture of their mantle. And it's the funniest picture because on the right they have a picture of their family. On the left there's a picture of me from one website printed out. So that was it was just funny in there. Just this wonderful warm feeling I have about that. The case that I personally enjoyed the most was a small injury case involving a bus. And the bus driver was testifying, and he was lying his pants off. And he started giving out numbers, and I'm pretty good at numbers when they come out. And he started giving out numbers, and I had a Perry Mason moment because I said, so basically what you're saying, you were traveling 179 miles an hour. And the bus driver goes, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, no, here's the speed you say you were going. Here's the timing sequence between lights. So let me do some math for you. And I pulled out a marker. I pulled out a piece of butcher paper, and in front of the jury, in front of the judge, did a math calculation. And then the driver goes, well, you're right, I'm not telling you the truth. So that was that was one of the most enjoyable cases. We belong to AAJ, which is American Association for Justice, and Consumer Attorneys of Los Angeles and Consumer Attorneys of California, which are organizations that are truly dedicated to representing people who are hurt. That's the best way to summarize their mission. And I love belonging to these organizations. First of all, it's a wonderful experience to be able to discuss with younger lawyers your experiences. They're young, they haven't had as much past as we do, so sometimes it's just they will come to you with a question that they're struggling with, and you just have an answer from experience. But it's also great because we learn a lot of things, especially from younger lawyers. They will come in and they will talk about the case, and we have this rote answer because we've done it for a long time. Well, you do this, this, and this. And they will come in and says, well, have you thought of doing something else? And they'll give you a solution. You go back and go, wow, That's absolutely brilliant. And you meet this really passionate young people, and you meet passionate older people. It's absolutely amazing how much these organizations spend time, resources, and assets just bringing up the entire group together, but also up as professionals. It's not about money, it's not about competition, it's not about who has won or who won what. It's about actually a bunch of people with the same interests who talk to each other, and you share ideas. And we make our resources, our facilities available to anybody who wants to come and use them, because we think that basically, I guess, universal karma. If we help them achieve what they're trying to do, the world will be better for it, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to find the same thing. We're trying to find justice. We're trying to help people who are hurt and who desperately need somebody to champion their cause. ACTS is a different take on a traditional law firm. In a traditional law firm, you would have lawyers who operate in their own little cells. They have their own little cases, and they kind of are there to coexist. ACTS is a living organism, and everybody has their own superpowers. I do trials, and I love to be in trials. When I'm in trial, Renata, who's my partner, she is the one writing the motions, reviewing them, making sure things are filed. All of the other attorneys in the office who write motions or who write papers, they report to her, and she makes sure that they're exactly right or the way we want them to be. At the same time, we have a partner, Danny Abir, whose job is to make sure the wheels don't come off the bus. He makes sure that everybody is working together, the cases are moving forward, there is the support and the backup for it. He will come in and he will discuss the cases with us, make sure they're progressing satisfactorily. And then there is Alex, who, as far as I'm concerned, is probably one of the smartest people I know in a most understated manner. And what Alex does, he analyzes the underlying facts and documents, and he's obsessive about it. We have gone to trial over whether the caption on a paragraph is capitalized or a small letter, and what that means in the scope of an insurance policy. But all in all together, the difference between us and everybody else, we're client obsessive here. Client always has to come first. It's a very easy decision for everybody to make. They don't need approval, they don't need oversight, they don't need permission. As long as the mantra is the client always comes first, everybody's decisions are geared towards that outcome. No supervision, no permission, no overrides required. Do whatever you need to do to make sure the client comes first.